Hi, my name is Jeff Johnson, and I'm the State Director for AARP Florida. Welcome to what we trust will be an informative but relatively brief primer on long-term care in Florida, a checkup on the state of long-term care, and a few ways to modernize the program. Now, we invite you to think differently about how Florida delivers its long-term care services. So, first of all, what is long term care? Long term care assists impaired persons with activities of daily living, or ADLs. Activities of daily living are basic activities that are necessary for independent living. There are five categories: personal hygiene, which includes bathing and showering, dressing, being able to make appropriate clothing decisions as well as physically dress and undress oneself, eating, the ability to feed oneself, not necessarily the capability to prepare food, maintaining continence, being able to mentally and physically use a restroom. That includes the ability to get on and off the toilet and cleaning oneself. And transferring or mobility, being able to stand from a sitting position as well as getting in and out of bed. Also, the ability to walk independently from one location to another. Now, the level of independence for persons needing long term care is based on whether they can perform these activities on their own or whether they need help from caregivers. Now, in your role as a decision maker for Florida's long term care system, it's essential to recognize that Florida has the fastest growing 65 plus population of any U.S. state and will soon account for 30% of Florida's total population. It's imperative to know that Florida seniors account for 60% of Florida's economic activity. The retirement industry, if you will, is Florida's second largest. Monthly Social Security payments to Florida seniors are approximately $7 billion a month. And that's just direct payments, not the economic activity that happens as that money gets spent in Florida communities. So, in short, Florida has a longevity economy that's driven by older Floridians. It's vital for that longevity economy that Florida has a healthy long term care system, a system for which taxpayers fund about 70% of long term care residential facility care costs. And for purposes of this presentation, long term care residential facilities include both nursing homes and assisted living facilities. But is Florida's long term care system ailing? The answer is an emphatic yes. So let's take Florida's long term care system through a checkup. What are the symptoms that Florida's long term care system is failing? Well, to date, 17,000 Floridians have died from contracting the COVID-19 virus, and 40% of those fatalities have been connected to long term care facilities, both residents and staff. The starkest symptom of the ailing system is that long term care residential facilities residents are dying at a rate 20 times greater than the COVID pandemic death rate for all other Floridians. And an Associated Press story from mid November states that in the US, for every two COVID 19 victims in long term care, there's another who died prematurely of other causes. Those excess deaths beyond the normal rate of fatalities in nursing homes could total more than 40,000 in the US since March of 2020. And since the COVID-19 pandemic began, the occupancy rate for long-term care residential facilities has plummeted and remains depressed. It's about 70% occupancy. Meanwhile, wait lists for long-term care home and community-based services, or HCBS, remain unduly long, in excess of 80,000 unduplicated applicants in Florida as of November 2020. So, what's the diagnosis for what ails Florida's long term system? Put it in three C's: it's consumer confidence collapse. Are there treatments for the three C's? What can we do to restore consumer confidence in the long term care system? Well, Florida must bring its residential facilities long term care model into the 21st century. We can't continue to do the same old things and expect a different result. The underlying treatments build on the adage, the best defense is a good offense. So let's talk about some of those longer term actions. we can incentivize the building or renovation of long-term care facilities that lessen the density of resident and staff populations and which lend themselves to minimizing casual and professional contacts between residents and staff and visitors and contractors. There is a model called the greenhouse model that has been around for several decades that uses more home-like environments, either new or remodeled or repurposed facilities that put a premium on housing and serving fewer residents in smaller contained quarters with staff who are exclusively serving those residents. And there are greenhouse models already in use in Florida, but there could be many more. So the state could expedite certificate of need applications for structures that are promoting less density of service and staff populations. The state can also incentivize long-term care industries who implement the less is more concept by providing them higher performance quality measure scores, which determine the payment rates for taxpayer funds. We can also serve more long-term care recipients through home and community-based services because, again, the best defense is a good offense. If we want to help people stay out of large and potentially dangerous long-term care facilities, we need to help them stay independent in their home. And home and community-based services are programs that allow people to do just that. They aid recipients as well as their caregivers, family, friend, neighbor, representative caregivers. And those programs include community care for the elderly, PACE, home care for the elderly, Alzheimer's supports, and respite for caregivers. Because these programs deliver services in recipients' homes and communities, they reduce the opportunities for contagion in communal settings. Furthermore, HCBS generally can serve 3 to 4 recipients with the same amount of resource, same amount of money that would be devoted to just one long-term care facility resident. So HCBS, home and community-based services, are a good investment strategy for taxpayer funds. But not only that, generally, people prefer to age in their homes or communities. So the best way to make this happen is to minimize initial placements into long-term care residential facilities. We can seek federal authorization through Medicaid waivers or state plan amendments to make home and community-based services the prime long-term care placement for recipients. Under federal authorities, HCBS are state optional services, but the state could and should seek to change that. We can also increase the number of budgeted slots for Medicaid, long-term care, home and community-based services, as well as general revenue, HCBS. A 10% annual increase that exceeds the increase in demand would slowly bring down that 80,000 person waitlist and eventually eliminate that waitlist for home and community-based services. Now, those are great long-term actions that we would suggest. How about something that we can do more immediately in the face of the COVID-19 crisis? First of all, we should strictly implement CDC guidelines around COVID-19. That means implementing rigorous recurring infectious disease training for long-term care facility staff, providing adequate personal protective equipment or PPE for staff and visitors, requiring infectious disease testing on a frequently recurring basis for residents, staff, visitors, everybody who walks through the door, providing for social distancing by residents and staff and visitors, and reduce or minimize the congregate activities by reducing the number of people allowed to at the same time in a dining and living area, for instance. We can also minimize resident and staff contacts. Think of it this way: if right now we have 10 nursing staff who serve 10 people, with each of those nursing staff providing 5 of the activities of daily living services, is there a way that we can have 5 nursing staff who are devoted to providing all 10 activities of daily living services for just 5 people? We can also, by the way, use technology to enable remote services. And maybe most importantly, though easiest to overlook, we can be caregivers for the family and friend and neighbor and representative caregivers, because these folks provide over $32 billion of uncompensated care annually in Florida. Aid for family caregivers is a good investment strategy for taxpayer funds because it often forestalls or even precludes recipients from needing more expensive care in residential long-term care facilities. Additionally, We can provide strict, comprehensive oversight of long-term care facilities by state and local regulators, and we should require maximum reporting transparency, both by state and local regulators of enforcement activities and also by long-term care residential facilities. We have to reform long-term care facility operations now. We need to increase nursing staffing levels. We need to augment that with other direct care workers. We need to incentivize through higher reimbursement rates for facilities with higher acuity need residents. We need to establish salary scales and benefits that are sufficient to attract and retain nursing staff and other direct care staff. And we need to incentivize top performing facilities through the use of performance quality measures. So, what is the prognosis for recovery from the consumer confidence collapse? If Florida innovates, long term care services will flourish. Florida must demonstrate its commitment to home and community based services, long term care placements, and to a nursing and home like environment in nursing homes, and to safe, meaningful assistance for residents of assisted living facilities. If Florida lets long term care stagnate, long term care services will perish. If Florida does not implement these or similar proposals, then history likely will repeat itself during surges of this or future pandemics or in times of other disasters. So, thank you for your attention. If you have questions, or you need detailed information on any aspect of this presentation, or just want to have a more in depth discussion, please contact the AARP Florida staff on the slide. Thank you.